Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the special council meeting to adopt the budget for fiscal year 2017-2018. Would everybody please rise for a moment of silence and the Pledge of Allegiance? During our moment of silence, I'd like everybody to reflect on some lives that we have passed recently. First is a 37-year veteran of our Trumbull school system, Robert Capobianco, passed away this week. He was a teacher at Madison Middle School. Mr. Cap, as he was affectionately known, I think he taught many of our children. Second person is Betty Mancini. She's the mother of our Board of Ed member, Marie Petiti. She hailed from Waterbury, and she will be missed as well. And Walter Danielak, the father of our own town council member, Mary Beth Thornton. Our condolences go out to you, Mary Beth, and to all your family. So a moment of silence for them and all the others we've lost. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Call the roll.
Michael London. Here. Mark Block. Here. Rick Constantini. Here. Mark Leclerc. Here. Joseph Pivko. Here. Jason Marsh. Here. Richard Kasich. Here. Lori Rosasco Schwartz. Here. Matt Karen. Here. Anne Marie Evangelista. Here. Vincent DeMasi. Here. Jack Testani. Here. Donna Siddell. Edna Colucci. Here. Tony Cinto. Lisa Valente. Dawn Contafio. Mary Beth Thornton. Here. Thomas Whitmore. Here. And Bill Mecca. And Carl Massaro.
Here. We have a quorum, which is good news. Tonight we will consider the budgets as proposed by the First Selectman, Tim Herbst, and our Board of Finance. And we will adopt the budget for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2017 through June 30th, 2018. We will consider the recommended expense budget delivered to us by the Board of Finance last month, department by department, and conclude with an overall vote on the budget totals, which will include the town's two enterprise funds, the WPCA and Taschereau Knolls Golf Course. Pursuant to Chapter 4, Section 3D of the Town Charter, the Town Council is limited in authority to increase proposed expenditures to the greater of the recommendation of the Board of Finance and the proposal of the First Selectman, but the Council is unrestricted in the amounts of any line item it may reduce. This year, most department expenditures were reduced by the Board of Finance from those proposed by the First Selectman, yet the total budget recommended by the Board of Finance is higher than the First Selectman's proposal. So how did this come about? Shortly after the First Selectman announced his proposed budget, Governor Daniel Malloy proposed a state budget that would provide no educational cost-sharing dollars to us and send a disproportionately high bill to Trumbull for teacher pension contributions. If adopted in Hartford, the governor's proposal would cost Trumbull approximately $6,400,000. To provide for this potential cost burden, the Board of Finance endeavored to move an average of 3.5% from most budget line items into a contingency account to either pay for any obligations the state sends our way or to supplement the budget once it is finally determined what, if any, funding we get from the state and or what obligations the state sends to us to pay. The Finance Committee of our council has studied the budget as proposed and recommended over the past month and discussed the ramifications of this unique budget season with all town departments and the Board of Education. I would like to thank our Finance Director, Maria Pyrus, and the staff of the Finance Department for its hard work and responsiveness to all of our questions. I would also like to extend the Town Council's appreciation to our Finance Committee and to the Board of Finance for its detailed examination of this year's proposed budget. We will be assisted this evening by Finance Director Maria Pyrus as we proceed through our votes. Motions to increase or reduce line items will be considered and voted upon, requiring a simple majority of votes from council members present and voting. So our agenda has one resolution. I'll ask Mr. Constantini to move it to the floor, please.
Resolution TC 26-132, be it resolved that the annual budget for the town of Trumbull for fiscal year beginning July 1, 2017 and ending June 30th, 2018, as recommended by the Board of Finance and amended by the Town Council, and would appropriate the sum stated therein as amended for their respective purposes as set forth therein.
Thank you. Do we have a second? Mr. Testani, thank you. So, council members, you all have a printed spreadsheet provided by the Department of Finance. We will go through each of the pages, department by department, and I will call for any motions as we proceed. So the first area of the budget is general government, and the first department is the Town Council. The next department is the Trumbull Nature Commission, the Ethics Commission. Next is the Office of the First Selectman. Mrs. Schwartz.
Thank you. I would like to motion to reduce the First Selectman salaries 501-101, salaries full-time permanent, by $3,900 even.
Thank you. Do we have a second? Mr. London? Comment?
The reason that I propose that cut is to bring the salaries in the First Selectman's Department to a 3.5% reduction, to bring it on par with the other departments that are also experiencing 3.5% reduction in salaries.
Thank you. Any further discussion? If not, I'll call for a vote. All in favor of the motion to reduce that line item by $3,900, raise your hands, please. Thank you. Anybody opposed? Any abstentions? That's unanimous. Any other motions in the First Selectman budget? Hearing none, I'll move to probate. Elections. Finance Department. The Board of Finance. The Tax Assessor. The Board of Assessment Appeals. Tax Collector. Next is Purchasing. The Office of the Treasurer. Technology. Mrs. Schwartz.
Thank you. I'd like to start by making a correction per Mr. Chin's Town Council Finance Committee hearing request to reduce $6,387 from account 522202, Services and Fees Professional.
That is there a second? Mr. London, thank you. A comment on that?
Again, this was a comment by Mr. Chin. There are there's a corresponding line item swap that he would like to make for about $7,000. So this is the first of the two line item corrections that he requested us to make.
Okay, any other question or comment? I'll call for a vote. All in favor of the motion to reduce by $6,387, please raise your hands. Thank you. Opposed? Any abstentions? I think that's unanimous. Mrs. Schwartz?
I'd like to motion to add $7,000 to account 522204, Service and Fees Contractual, again per the request of Mr. Chin.
Do we have a second? Mr. Block, thank you. I guess this is a balancing. The dollars were in the wrong.
That's correct. They were in the wrong line item.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? I'll call for a vote. All in favor of the motion to restore $7,000 to 522204, raise your hands. Thank you. Opposed? Abstentions? That carries. Mr. Schwartz?
Yes, thank you. I would like to motion to reduce $2,209 from account 556601, professional development seminars and conferences. Again, per the discussion we had with Mr. Chin at our Town Council Finance Committee hearings, he indicated that he wasn't in need of that line item.
Thank you. Do we have a second on that motion? Mr. Constantini, thank you. Any further comment on it? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor of the motion to reduce that line, 2209, please raise your hands. Thank you. Opposed? Any abstentions? Carries. Mrs. Schwartz, did you have another one in there?
Thank you. The last one in the technology department, I would like to motion to reduce $20,265 from account 556603, professional development in service. Mr. Chin indicated he would do something to change his Landis training. So we're going to ask motion to reduce that line.
Thank you. Is there a second? Mr. London, additional comment, question? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, please raise your hands. Thank you. Opposed? Any abstentions? It's unanimous. Anything else in technology? We'll move on to town attorneys. Next is human resources. We will skip over employee benefits. Next would be the town clerk's office. Town hall.
I'd like to request that we skip over the town hall line until the end, if that's okay.
Okay, as long as we don't forget. Next is planning and zoning. Economic development. Inland Wetlands Commission. Conservation Commission. Transit District. I believe that completes the general government section, but we won't vote on that total yet till we have one. Okay, so we will move on to public safety. First department is the police. Mrs. Schwartz.
Thank you. I would like to move to add $233,304 to account 501101, salaries, full-time permanent.
Thank you. Is there a second? Mr. Testani. Comment on that?
Yes, the reason that that motion is being made is to, in light of the uncertainty with the state budget and not knowing exactly when they're going to finalize that, we didn't want to go into July 1st with any uncertainty around what was going to happen to keep the police department at full strength. So the motion's made to move the 233 into the salary line, but I will be motioning to make a corresponding reduction in the same amount to the overtime line.
Thank you. Any additional comment, question? Now I'll call for a vote. All in favor of the motion to increase the line item $233,304, raise your hands. Thank you. Opposed? Any abstentions? I believe that's unanimous. Mrs. Schwartz.
I would like to move to reduce $233,304 from account 501105, salaries overtime.
Thank you. Second? Mr. Leclerc, thank you.
And again, my comment there is to balance the dollars out to have a net zero impact to the budget of the police department, but again, to give us a little bit of certainty around that July 1st date with making sure that we have full strength in the police department.
Thank you, Mr. Schwartz. Any additional comment, question? If not, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, please raise your hands. Thank you. Opposed? Any abstentions? Anything else in the police department? Next is animal control. Mrs. Schwartz.
I motion to reduce $6,000 in account 581-888 capital outlay.
Thank you. Do we have a second? Mr. Testani? Comment?
Yes, this is to defer the van replacement that the Animal Control Department had requested initially for 1 year.
Thank you. Any further comment or question? Now I'll call for a vote. All in favor of that line item reduction, please raise your hands. Thank you. Opposed? Abstentions? Carries unanimously. Anything else in animal control? Next is emergency medical services. Fire marshal. Next is fire marshal fire hydrants. Comment, Mr. London? It's an annual.
No, that's streetlights.
Well, there's two. Okay. For those who don't know, those are fixed costs we have no control over, and nobody can explain why we're charged what we're charged for streetlights or fire hydrants, but we pay it big time every year. Next is building official. Mr. Schwartz.
I motion to reduce $4,652 from account 581-888 capital outlay.
Thank you. Second, Mr. London. Comment?
This is to delay the replacement of the vehicle requested, the Chevy Equinox, to 1 year, for 1 year.
Thank you. Further question or comment? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor of the reduction of $4,652, please raise your hands. Thank you. Opposed? Any abstentions? Carries. I think that takes us to a total on public safety.
Total is $12,642,872, a decrease of $10,652.
All right, all in favor of that new total, please raise your hands. Thank you. Opposed? Abstentions? We'll move to Public Works. First section is the Public Works Director. Next is Public Works Streetlights. Mr. London. Next is Public Works Highway. Mrs. Schwartz.
I motion to add $68,822 to account 501101, salaries full-time permanent.
Thank you. Do we have a second? Mr. London, comment?
This is also an essential service, so in order to take some of the uncertainty away around the state budget situation at July 1st. The intent here is to restore the salary lines that were initially reduced by 3.5%, and I will be making a series of motions throughout the rest of the Public Works section to make corresponding adjustments to the overtime.
Thank you. Further comments or questions? Mrs. Thornton?
Yes, at the end of that, other than, I have a couple of other motions that'll reduce the overall, but for the most part, it's the same concept, is to take the salary amounts and put them back in at full 100%, and then take the reduction in the overtime accounts.
Anything further? If not, I'll call for a vote on the motion to increase the salaries permanent line, $68,822. All in favor, raise your hands. Thank you. Opposed? Abstentions? Carries. Mr. Schwartz?
In the snow removal, I would motion to reduce $57,065 from account 501105, salaries overtime.
Thank you. A second? Mrs. Seidel, thank you.
So the comment here is that the $57,065 reduction is the net impact of all of the other line item swaps. So this ended up coming first, but in the next series of motions, I'll do the reduction of the overtime and the corresponding salary increase, but this is the net to bring us to a zero impact of those line item swaps throughout the rest of the Public Works group.
Thank you. Any further question or comment? If not, I'll call for a vote. All in favor of the reduction of that line item, $57,065. Raise your hands. Opposed? Any abstentions? Carries. Mr. Schwartz?
Okay, in the Public Works Building Maintenance section, I'd like to add $18,096 to account 501101, salaries full-time permanent.
Thank you. A second? Mr. Block?
And this is the same comment, is that we're restoring the workforce back to $18,096 to 100% salary.
Any further question or comment? If not, all in favor, please raise your hands. Thank you. Opposed? Abstentions? It's unanimous.
The next motion is to reduce $14,475 from account 501105, salaries overtime.
Thank you. A second? Mr. Leclerc, thank you.
That brings the overtime line to zero in the building maintenance department.
Okay. Any further question or comment? I will call for a vote. All in favor of that item, please raise your hands. Thank you. Opposed? Abstentions? It's unanimous. It takes us to fleet maintenance, I think. Mrs. Schwartz?
A motion to add $14,913 to account 501101, salaries full-time permanent.
Is there a second? Mr. Block? Any other question or comment? I'll call for a vote. All in favor, please raise your hands. Thank you. Opposed? Abstentions?
I motion, thank you. I motion to reduce $9,843 from account 501105, salaries overtime.
Thank you. A second? Mr. Testani, thank you. All right. Any other question or comment on that?
That will bring that overtime line to zero
Okay.
in that department.
All right. All in favor, please raise your hands. Thank you. Opposed? Abstentions? It's unanimous. believe that is there anything else?
The recycling center.
Okay. Recycling center.
Thank you.
Mr.
I'd like to motion to add $4,552 to account 501101, salaries, full-time permanent.
Do we have a second? Mr. Pivko, thank you. Any questions or comments? Now I'll call for a vote. All in favor of increasing the line $4,552, please raise your hands. Thank you. Opposed? Abstentions? It's unanimous.
The next motion is to reduce $25,000 even from account 501105, salaries, overtime.
Thank you. A second. Mrs. Seidel.
Again, that brings the overtime line to 0.
Any other comment, questions? Call for a vote. All in favor of the reduction of $25,000 to salaries overtime, please raise your hands. Thank you. Opposed? Abstentions? Anything else in recycling center? No. Next is town engineer. All right. Total public works, Mrs. Pyrus.
8,747,069, a 0 reduction. At 0.
Can you repeat that once more for our clerk?
8,747,069. No cents.
Okay, we'll vote on total public works at that figure. All in favor, please raise your hands. Thank you. Opposed? Abstentions? Were you opposed? You get that? Okay. Next section is public health, the health department. Next is vital statistics. Nursing seniors. And total public health.
No change. 374,676.
Okay, we'll vote that total for public health. $374,675.76. And these accountants love to round things. Okay. All right, all in favor of that figure, please raise your hands. Thank you. Opposed? Yep. Any abstentions? Next is Human Services, the Human Services Department. Next is the Mary J. Sherlock Counseling Center. Senior Citizens Services. That brings us to a total for Human Services.
$701,789. Round it up.
Okay, all in favor of the total for Human Services, $701,789. Raise your hands, please. Thank you. Opposed? Any abstentions? It's unanimous. We will move to education. Mrs. Schwartz.
I motion to add $752,000 even to account 522205, Board of Ed program expenses.
Thank you. Do we have a second? Mr. Testani? Comments, please?
Again, due to the uncertainty with the state budget, we're hoping that at some point down the road that we'll be able to restore additional funding to this line, but given the situation that we're in with having to be very, very tight with our budget, the $752,000 will restore the current year budget amount to the prior year budget level as per state mandate.
Thank you. Additional comments, questions? Mr. Marsh?
About that specific reduction, or can I propose an additional reduction? I'm sorry, the increase.
Yeah. You can make an additional motion.
I would motion,
Well, wait, we have to.
I'm sorry.
We have to dispose of this one, but you can make an additional motion following it. Any comments on the motion to increase by 752,000? If not, I'll take a vote. All in favor of increasing this line item 752,000, please raise your hands. Thank you. Opposed? Any abstentions? I believe that's unanimous. Mr. Marsh?
thank you. Propose to reduce line 589901, rentals, annual rentals lease by $300,000.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second? Mr. Leclerc? Comment, Mr. Marsh?
At this time, I don't know that it's appropriate to be budgeting for a lease that is speculative, and I recall that the Board of Ed's finance director or business director, excuse me, indicated that leasing that was proposed was not in the best interest of the Board of Ed.
Mrs. Schwartz?
Thank you. I would like to agree with that, and I was actually going to raise a similar motion. The Board of Ed did a draft and presented to the constituents the fact that a lease may not be the best in this short term, so correspondingly we would reduce that line as well. So I agree with Mr. Marsh's motion.
Thank you. Any additional comments on that? If not, then I'll call for a vote on the motion to reduce the rental line item by $300,000. All in favor? Thank you. Opposed? Any you got the one? Margaret? One. Opposed? Jack? Anything else in education? Next is school health nursing. Total. Marie, did you want me to vote total on education?
There was substantial change. We could do it in total.
Okay. We'll continue on. Non-public schools. Trumbull Business Education Initiative. I'm losing it. Trumbull Community Television. Mrs. Pyrus, you have a total education for us?
$108,874,684, an increase of $452,000.
Thank you. All in favor of that number, please raise your hands. Thank you. Opposed? Abstentions? We will move on to libraries, the library system. Mr. Marsh.
Thank you. I just have a general question. Given that we are doing or proposing 3.5% reductions across the board, and a lot of those affect salary lines, have we confirmed that none of these are affecting union contracts, and we can make these cuts?
It is a question, and I think the answer is it's not going to affect existing closed contracts.
how do we know that? If we're making a line item cut of an even amount, do some bear the reduction and others don't?
Well, this is for next fiscal year, and there are the union contracts that are already in place for next year with the motions and the changes made tonight. Those full-time salary line items are fully funded. Union contracts coming up that are going into negotiation will continue to have the reduction unless there's other changes tonight. Those negotiations will be ongoing, and at the end of the night, we'll have substantial monies in the contingency account to move for the Board of Finance to address whenever, July, August, whenever the certainty of all of the state budget is known to us, and they'll figure out what goes in there. The contingency account is traditionally created in the budget process to have money on hand for the changes in union contracts. So that's the best answer I can give you, but we're in a fluid, dynamic period, and what occurs next week, next month, the following month will change, and hopefully what we adopt tonight will be sufficient to handle it. Mr. Schwartz?
I just did want to add, Chair, that I did have, a number of us have had a number of conversations with Mr. Hazelkamp prior to making these recommendations, and from a union contract standpoint, he was comfortable that what was being proposed tonight was going to be acceptable.
Mr. Herbst, did you have a comment? Okay. Okay, thank you. Okay, Mrs. Schwartz? Mrs. Schwartz, go ahead.
Thank you. I'd like to motion to reduce $10,615 from account 581-888 capital outlay.
Thank you. Do we have a second? Mr. Testani? Comment?
The intent behind this reduction is that the line item consisted of furniture replacement for the library, which we've proposed to defer for one more year, given our budget situation.
Okay, thank you. Further comment or question? If not, I'll call for a vote. All in favor of the reduction, 10,615, raise your hands, please. Opposed? Any abstentions? We'll move to recreation and parks. You want to do a total on libraries?
Yep.
Okay, Ms. Iris.
$1,563,042, a decrease of $10,615.
Thank you. All in favor of the libraries total, please raise your hands. Thank you. Opposed? Any abstentions? None. Unanimous. Recreation and parks. First is public events. Trumbull Fall Festival. The Recreation Department. Total recreation.
We're going. Oh,
Night.
there's no motions?
No motions.
Parks? New parks?
Do parks. We'll do parks. Mrs. Schwartz?
I would like to motion to add $31,988 to account 501101, salaries full-time permanent.
Thank you. Is there a second? Mr. Block, thank you.
The comment here is, again, similar to the police and the public works, to restore the salary line item here to full 100% and not have the 3.5% reduction, I will then subsequently motion to reduce the overtime account in the same amount after this motion.
Thank you. Further comment? None, I'll call for a vote. All in favor of the motion to increase this line, $31,988. Raise your hands. Thank you. Opposed? Abstentions? Unanimous? Mrs. Schwartz?
I motion to reduce $31,988 from account 501105, salaries overtime.
Thank you. Second, Mr. Block. Sorry, Mr. Marsh?
Sorry, just a question as we keep doing what it is you're doing. We're moving things into full-time and then reducing the overtime. I understand that's a net zero, but does that take into account, if you move someone into a full-time position, the added benefit cost to that person?
Yeah, the benefits, and I've also spoken with Mrs. Pyrus about this. The benefits are calculated on both the salary line and the overtime line, so the net impact of that is zero, but thank you for that question.
Any further question or comment on the reduction, 31,988? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, please raise your hands. Thank you. Opposed? Abstentions? Mrs. Schwartz?
One more. I'd like to reduce $10,703 from account 581-888 capital outlay.
Thank you. Do we have a second? Mr. Testani, thank you. Comment?
This is to defer a purchase of a dump truck for one more year, again, given the current situation we are in with the budget.
Okay, thank you. Additional comment, question? Now I'll call for a vote. All in favor of the reduction, $10,703. Please raise your hands. Thank you. Opposed? Any abstentions? Tree warden. That takes us to our total for recreation and parks. Mrs. Pyrus?
The total is $2,851,109 for a decrease of $10,703.
Thank you. I'll call for a vote on that total. All in favor, please raise your hands. Thank you. Opposed? Abstentions? It's unanimous. We'll go to debt service next. I don't think there's anything we can do there. Okay, so I think at this point, we go back. I'll go back to page 5, or employee benefits, or contingency first. I think we need to do contingency.
Fringe benefits, you can do that, it's a quick one.
We can do fringe benefits? Okay. All right, so,
It's a reduction of $298 to account 511150. $298. Yeah,
Is that,
yep.
we need to hear that again. Is your mic on?
Here's what, yeah. Okay. Employee benefits account 01013400511150 FICA in the amount, a reduction in the amount of $298 for a total of $1,679,853. Uh, 01013400511150 employee benefits FICA.
Okay, so with all the motions that were carried back and forth, they wash out. So we need to decrease line 511150 by $298. Is there a motion? Mr. London, second. Mr. Block? All in favor, please raise your hands. God bless you. Thank you. Opposed? Abstentions? I think that was unanimous. That would be next. Mrs. Pyrus, the total for employee benefits.
$16,519,588.
A reduction of $298. Is there a motion to approve that total, please? Mr. London, thank you. Second, Mr. Testani. All in favor, please raise your hands. Thank you. Opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. We have to go to Town Hall under General Government. So, Mrs. Schwartz, you have a motion here.
I do, thank you. I would like to motion to reduce $748,100 from account 501116 contingency.
Thank you. Do we have a second? Mr. Block, thank you.
The reason for that reduction is to account for the $752,000 that we restored to the Board of Education programming line, and then to also account for the $3,900 that we removed from the First Selectman salary line, as all other 3.5% salary reductions were included in the contingency line. That one should be as well. So the add back of the $752 and the $3,900, I'm sorry, the reduction of the $752 in the contingency and the add back of the $3,900 for the First Selectman salary cut gives us a net of $748,100.
Thank you, Mrs. Schwartz. Mr. Herbst, do you want to comment?
Can you hear me now? Okay. I just want to address some general budgetary issues as they relate to the state budget and how that impacts what you're doing here tonight. Earlier today, I received word that the proposal to defer 1/3 of teacher pension costs to towns and cities did not make it out of the Appropriations Committee. There is not support for this. So that clearly is going to impact the budget. I don't know if it's good news for us because I don't know what the legislature might do otherwise, which would impact us. But there is no support to defer the 1/3 in pension costs to the towns and cities. That being said, you have a very fluid situation right now in Hartford because the governor has one budget, the Democratic majority has another budget, and I expect the Republicans will have another budget. So you're going to have 3 budgets instead of 2, which makes things interesting. So I expect that you're going to have something pretty close to right down the middle of what the Democrats and the majority propose and what the Republicans and the minority propose, given the makeup of the legislature. The Senate is tied, and there are 4 votes that separate both parties in the House. I do not have a clear indication of what will happen to ECS, whether all of that money will be restored, but I think it's significant to point out that under the governor's proposal, while the $3.4 million of ECS reimbursement was zeroed out for Trumbull, there was $2.5 million for special education that was in the budget. So there was a $900,000 delta between those 2 numbers. So I bring that up because the contingency number was obviously impacted by the proposal with respect to teacher pensions, and that was something that the Board of Finance was very concerned about. So you can make a decision to leave it where you just left it, or perhaps make further reductions to it based upon the news that came out of Hartford today concerning teacher pensions, or not touch it based upon where we do not know where the rest of the budget will be with respect to ECS or if there are going to be other cuts to municipal aid. The latest budget proposal that I saw today includes tax increases at the state level, sales tax and income tax increases. I expect that there's going to be a lot of debate. I do not know. The Speaker of the House has indicated that he wants to finish this budget on June 7. I hope we do finish it on June 7 because I'd like some certainty with respect to the budget because we have to set a mill rate. As you know, if the Board of Finance fails to set a mill rate, I have to set the mill rate by myself, and I don't want to do that. I definitely don't want to do that, so I'm hopeful that we can get some kind of clarity before June 7th as the Board of Finance considers setting the mill rate. But if they don't adopt a budget on June 7th, then they could go into special session. So as these numbers evolve, we will keep you apprised. But I am encouraged by the fact that this teacher pension proposal does not appear to have bipartisan support, because that would have really put the town of Trumbull in a very bad way to the tune of $5.6 million. And I should point out, the other thing I want you to consider is as the legislature considers this budget and adopts a budget, we don't know if the governor's going to veto that budget. We don't know if it's going to be a flat-out veto or, a line item partial veto. The other thing I'd ask you to consider is this is a biennial budget. So the budget that the legislature will adopt will be for 2 years. So as we are acting on this budget, we have to pay careful attention to what's going on because what they're doing in Hartford not only affects this fiscal year, but will impact the following fiscal year. So we also need to be doing some forecasting for next year's budget because there will be an impact for a 2-year period. So I don't know if you have any questions of me, but I want to thank you for all your hard work and efforts, and I want to also thank the Board of Finance. I know this was not an easy budget because of the element of the unknown. We have less of that unknown, but we still have unknown. So I want to thank you, and I'm hopeful that as we get ready to set the mill rate, we will be able to keep any increase in taxes held to a reasonable level without impacting or adversely harming services. So with that being said, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Herbst. Anybody have any questions for the First Selectman? Mr. Marsh?
Well, I don't know if it's directly to the First Selectman, but am I the only one who would have liked to have heard this good news before we voted on certain line items? I mean, we probably could have done this at the beginning of the meeting.
Mr. Marsh, I got to be honest with you. Every morning, every afternoon, there's a different story about what's happening. I mean, I heard stories today that it's not dead, that maybe 10% of the teacher pensions would be coming along. If there was a committee vote this afternoon, it's the latest news. I was going to make some remarks afterward, but I'll just respond to your question.
It's just, I'm not trying to be argumentative, but it's disconcerting and uncomfortable if we're trying to set a budget. I'm speaking without partisanship here. How can we do the job if we don't know what we're doing here in terms of the numbers we have to work with? So, I mean, if I heard the First Selectman correctly, he said you may want to take another look at the contingency fund and what you're reducing or adding, or I feel like this is sort of a futile exercise at the moment.
Well, what I have been saying through our budgetary process at the council level is if we were to take the tack that many towns did and just go about their business, adopt the budget in the normal course, and disregard the governor's proposal, you would do it at your peril. I know the town of North Haven, as well as our Trumbull Board of Finance, took the cautious approach and said we're going to have to trim, we're going to have to build a contingency fund, hope we don't get the bill from the state, and hope we do get ECS money. And when we don't get that bill and do get ECS money, there'll be more meetings to redistribute the contingency fund. I still sit here on April 25th with no ability to know what the state's going to do. They don't know what they're doing. So I think the cautious thing to do, I think in the effort that was made, was to give as much assurance as we can that come July 1st, the next fiscal year, regardless of what the state has done by that point or not done by that point, the government of the Trumbull, all the services, our education, public works, public safety, will go on as normal. We are funding all aspects of the budget, and life will continue on in Trumbull as it has been. And it will just sort itself out. I've never seen in 16 years this much money in a contingency fund.
Chairman, if I might just add
But
to that and address his question, I'm just trying to give you what is becoming known to us as it happens, and I can tell you that you might want to just leave the contingency where it is minus what Mrs. Schwartz proposed, because look, I mean, there's a lot of punting going on right now. So the governor proposed a budget, and we punted to towns and cities to absorb a lot of the problems in Hartford. And now another budget's been proposed where we're punting with proposing tax increases at a time when I think Connecticut residents don't want them. So there's a lot of punting back and forth going on right now. And I expect there's going to be a lot more punting over the course of the next 6 weeks, unless and until people are prepared to make necessary and difficult decisions outside of this body 54 miles to the north of us. So I just share that just on the pension front, but that being said, I don't know if they're going to make reductions in any other areas or adopt any reductions in any other areas. So do as you wish. I'm just sharing information as it becomes available, and we'll take it from there.
Mrs. Schwartz, we do have a motion on the floor that we need to get to.
I would just like to add that although the news that the first selectman just delivered is very encouraging, I don't believe, and my feeling is that we still have no more certainty around the state budget reductions now than we did when we walked in here at 8 o'clock. And as a result, I don't think it would be the prudent thing to do to change the budget contingency number at this stage of the game until those budget votes are final and we know for certain what that exact number is going to be. I don't recommend that we do anything to change the votes that we made and the contingency amounts that we're proposing here tonight.
Mr. Constantini?
I agree with Mr. Marsh. It's incredibly difficult to do this with so many unknowns, but unfortunately, I think by the charter, we're required to pass a budget by a certain date. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Massaro.
Sunday.
So, while Hartford has kicked the can down the road, and they may be able to go into special session and wait until June, July, August to do it, we can't. So we have to make these decisions based on unknowns. And I think, to Lori's point, a lot of the sort of motions made tonight were with an eye towards that. So, while I agree with you, I don't think we have a choice. I think we have to make a decision based on what we're facing.
Mrs. Thornton?
Thank you. I don't, with all due respect, I don't think that's what Mr. Marsh was saying. I think what he was saying was this seemed like new information being delivered to a body who hasn't come to a vote on their town budget. I mean, we are not at the end of our budget voting session, and we were delivered new information. I think that was his point. Thank you.
We have a motion on the floor to reduce the contingency line by $748,100. Is there any further comment on that? If not, I'll call for a vote. All in favor of reducing contingency by $748,100, raise your hands. Thank you. Opposed? Any abstentions? Are there any other motions under Town Hall? If not, I think our next course of action is to vote the total on general government. Mrs. Pyrus?
total general government is $27,396,224, a reduction of $774,159.
Thank you. All in favor of that total, please raise your hands. Thank you. Opposed? Any abstentions? Takes us to our enterprise, total general fund. We'll get there. Mrs. Pyrus, do you have that figure for us?
Total general fund, $169,212,277, a reduction of $364,832.
I'll call for a vote on the total general fund of $169,212,077.
$277.
Sorry, $277. 169,212,277. All in favor, please raise your hands. Thank you. Opposed? Any abstentions? Next are our enterprise funds. First is the WPCA sewer operations. I'll call for a vote on that total, $9,391,328. All in favor, please raise your hands. Thank you. Opposed? Abstentions? And next is the Attachment Knolls Golf Course Commission. Any motions? Hearing none, the total is $2,081,663. All in favor of that total? Thank you. Opposed? Abstentions? Total enterprise funds, $11,472,991. All in favor, please raise your hands. Thank you. Opposed? Any abstentions? Do we have a grand total?
$180,685,268, a reduction of $364,832.
Supposed to disregard, what's off stage, but okay. Can we have that total one more time? We'll vote the total budget for next fiscal year.
$180,685,268, a reduction of $364,832.
All right. Next year's budget, $180,685,268. All in favor, please raise your hands.
Before,
I'm sorry, somebody had a comment?
just
Mr.
before we
Marsh, go
vote,
ahead.
I'd just ask for a 5-minute recess so I can discuss something with my caucus, please. Thank you.
5-minute recess. Okay, we're back in session. Thank you, everyone. Mrs. Pyrus, can we just verify the total budget number that we're voting on?
I'll give you the total general fund first, just in case. $169,212,277, a reduction of $354,129. I think that's the same. No? Well, it doesn't foot then. Then it wouldn't foot. We checked it twice.
Okay, that's the total,
General,
that's the total general fund number, and that is the same number we voted on and approved. So we had a motion for the grand total of the budget of $180,685,268. Is that
correct,
your number?
yeah.
Our number? Okay, so we have that motion on the floor. Are there any, and that represents a reduction of
354, 129.
$354,129. Okay, any discussion, comments? If not, I'll call for a vote on the total budget number. All in favor, please raise your hands. Thank you. Opposed? Any abstentions? The budget for fiscal year 2017-2018 is adopted. Resolution TC 26-132 is passed. Thank you. Is there a motion to adjourn? Mr. Block. Second, Mr. Karen. All in favor? Thank you, and good night, everyone.